Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. My name is Mike Gaudette, and welcome back to another song bracket. The artist we're covering today is Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was a huge influence on me, particularly in my formative years as a guitar player. And obviously, it goes without saying that he is one of the greatest rock guitar players of all time. And the amount of guitarists that he influenced is so far-reaching. One of the most important guitar players of all time, in my opinion. So the way that these brackets are going to work is there are 32 songs altogether. We have two sides, side A and side B, with 16 songs on each side. And it's just a typical process of elimination tournament until we get to the final two, and then we will find out what my favorite Jimi Hendrix song is. And for the songs, I chose a mixture of the 3 studio albums, Are You Experienced, Axis Bold as Love, and Electric Ladyland, as well as Band of Gypsies and The Cry of Love. And I tried to do a nice combination of some of the bigger hits as well as a couple of, B-sides and deep cuts. So I'm curious to see where I end up with this, because on the previous episode with the Beach Boys, I had gone into that one already knowing what my favorite Beach Boys song is, and I've never really picked a favorite Jimi Hendrix song, so it's going to be interesting to see where I end up at the end. All right, so here, let's jump into it. All right, for side A, round 1, the first matchup is Purple Haze versus Foxy Lady. Both are spectacular songs, but I would have to go with Purple Haze. That's the first Jimi Hendrix song I ever heard as a kid. My dad had the Are You Experienced CD, and I put it on when I was a kid and just immediately was intrigued by the sound of that track. The first Jimi Hendrix song I ever heard, so it has a special place in my heart. All right, next, Manic Depression or The Wind Cries Mary. That one easily would be Manic Depression for me. That's probably my number one favorite Jimi Hendrix guitar solo. Just that opening, bending part, and then that crazy run. It's just absolute perfection. All right, next, Hey Joe and Fire. Technically, Hey Joe is a cover, but it's still a classic Jimi Hendrix hit, so I will be including a couple of covers on this video. But for this one, I got to go with Fire. That's just such a classic Hendrix track. All right, and then for the last pairing of the Are You Experienced album, we have I Don't Live Today versus Are You Experienced. So these are two tracks that are more deep cuts. But for me, I have to go with Are You Experienced. I absolutely love that track. That opening reversed scratching sound is just so cool, and just the overall vibe of this track just really intrigues me. All right, now we're going to switch to Axis Bold as Love. So Up From the Skies versus If 6 Was 9. That one would easily be If 6 Was 9 for me. That's an incredible track. All right, next, Little Wing against Castles Made of Sand. Two tracks that are more on the ballad side, and that is kind of a tough one. I love both of these songs, and Little Wing is such a classic from the rock guitar repertoire. But I think I'm going to go with Castles Made of Sand. I think that song is just so beautiful, but Little Wing is obviously incredible as well. All right, next, Spanish Castle Magic versus One Rainy Wish. That one is an easy one, Spanish Castle Magic, hands down. And then the last one of side A, round 1, we have Wait Until Tomorrow versus Bold as Love. Gotta go with Bold as Love for that one. So that concludes round 1 of side A. Now round 1 of side 2. We're going to be switching over to Electric Ladyland and onward. So the first one we got is Crosstown Traffic versus Have You Ever Been to Electric Ladyland. That one easily would be Crosstown Traffic for me. That's an incredible song. Next we have Gypsy Eyes against Burning of the Midnight Lamp. That's a tough one. Those are both awesome tracks. Let me think about that one for a second. This is not one that I expected to get stumped on, but that is a tough one. I think I'll go with Gypsy Eyes, but that was a tough one. Those are both incredible songs. All right, next, Voodoo Child versus All Along the Watchtower. Again, another cover song originally written by Bob Dylan, but it's regarded as a classic Hendrix track. This one is very hard. Wow. These are both just such legendary tracks. I think I got to go with All Along the Watchtower. One of my all-time favorite cover songs. Perfect example of a cover where I think it's a lot better than the original. And now we're going to switch over to the Band of Gypsies album. So Who Knows versus Machine Gun. These are, again, both classics, and Machine Gun is one of the legendary Jimi Hendrix guitar solos, but as an overall song, I do think I like Who Knows a little bit more, and I think it's a great opening to that album, so I'm going to go with Who Knows. All right, and then another pairing from Band of Gypsies, Message to Love versus Power to Love. I will go with Message to Love for that one. All right, and now we have one pairing from his first posthumous album, The Cry of Love, Angel versus Easy Rider. I'll go with Angel. That's another beautiful down-tempo Jimi Hendrix ballad that I really love. Okay, and now we have Dolly Dagger versus Stepping Stone. I've always loved Stepping Stone. I'm going to go with that one. I've always thought that was one of the more underrated Hendrix tracks. All right, and for the last one of round one of side B, we have Red House versus Highway Child. I love Red House. That's a classic from the blues repertoire, but I love the opening riff of Highway Child just so much. That's such an infamous Jimi Hendrix riff, so I'm actually going to have to go with Highway Child. All right, so that concludes our first round of side B. Now we're going to go to round two of side A. So Purple Haze versus Manic Depression. I love both of these songs, but I would have to go with Purple Haze, like I had mentioned before. That song just has such a special place in my heart, being the first Hendrix song that I ever heard. All right, next, Fire versus Are You Experienced? So this one might actually surprise some people. I'm actually going to go with Are You Experienced? I've always just loved that track so much. I think it's one of the most underrated Jimi Hendrix tracks. I like it even more than Fire, if you can believe that. All right, next, If 6 Was 9 versus Castles Made of Sand. I'm going to go with Castles Made of Sand. I think that's just such a beautiful track. And then the last one of round two, Spanish Castle Magic versus Bold as Love. Gotta go with Spanish Castle Magic. That just has such solid guitar riffs, and again, just another classic Jimi Hendrix track. All right, now over to round two of side B, Crosstown Traffic versus Gypsy Eyes. Definitely Crosstown Traffic. That one I didn't even have to think about. All right, next, All Along the Watchtower versus Who Knows. Don't even have to think about that one. All Along the Watchtower, hands down. Next, we have Message to Love versus Angel. That's a tough one. I think I'll go with Message to Love. And then the last one of round two, Stepping Stone versus Highway Child. That's also a tough one. I love both of these tracks so much. I think I'll go with Stepping Stone. That was a tough choice, though. All right, that concludes round two. Now round three of side A. Purple Haze versus Are You Experienced? Absolutely love both of those songs, but I have to go with Purple Haze again. Just such an important song to me. And then Castles Made of Sand versus Spanish Castle Magic. Two songs with Castle in the title. Wow, that's a tough one. I almost feel like this one, it depends on what sort of mood I'm in. If I want more of like an upbeat song with a great drive to it, I would go with Spanish Castle Magic. But if I want a more down-tempo, really pretty ballad, I would do Castles Made of Sand. If I have to pick one, I think I'll pick Castles Made of Sand. All right, that concludes round three of side A. Now round three of side B, Crosstown Traffic against All Along the Watchtower. Got to go with All Along the Watchtower. Again, just such a solid classic Hendrix track. And then Message to Love against Stepping Stone. These are both pretty interesting tracks to make it this far in the bracket. I wasn't expecting this, but I'm going to have to go with Stepping Stone. Again, just such a great driving track with just really good guitar work and just another great Hendrix song. All right, now we're getting to round four, where we're going to narrow it down to our final two. So Purple Haze versus Castles Made of Sand. Got to go with Purple Haze again. I just feel like that is, one of the greatest Hendrix tracks of all time, hands down. And then round four of side B, All Along the Watchtower versus Stepping Stone. I'm surprised that Stepping Stone made it this far, and I think some people watching this might be surprised as well, but got to go with All Along the Watchtower. All right, now we're at our final two, which are Purple Haze and All Along the Watchtower. Like I said, going into this, I didn't know where this was going to end up, but now that I see these final two tracks, I'm not surprised. And I think I'm going to have to go with Purple Haze. I guess that's my number one favorite Hendrix track. I've just loved that song so much. And it had such an impact on me when I first heard it, and was definitely one of the songs that was responsible for me getting really into the guitar. So I just, can't say enough good things about that track. And having the North American version of Are You Experienced, that's the first song that you hear when you put that on. It's different with the UK release. That one starts out with Foxy Lady, but, I had the North American CD as a kid, so that was the first track I ever heard. And it just had such a profound impact on me, and I guess that's my number one favorite Jimi Hendrix track. So that is it for our song bracket for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was enjoyable, and be sure to check out my other song brackets as well as my album tier lists and my top 5 favorite album series. I will have links to all of those in the comments and the description. And that is it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you at the next bracket. Take care.